Today we're looking at the agenda for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And to start out, I noticed that Carl sent us the minutes from when we met on the 16th of November. So, Carl, you want to pick that up?
I sent them out. If anyone had noticed a needed correction or addition, please let me know. Otherwise, we can approve them now. I'll send them over to the clerk's office.
Right. Any other comments?
All right, I move that we approve the minutes from 11/16/22.
That's Carl. Second,
Second.
Nick. All those in favor? Please vote, say your name.
Nancy, yes.
Sayulani, yes.
Nick Priest, yes.
Carl, yes.
BJ Addison Reed, yes. Okay, let's go on and look at the second item on the agenda, and that is the Select Board Annual Report. It's the document we discussed last week, and so we want to open up. I did receive Carl and Lou's biography, and I adjusted those and added them to the document. I also Friday sent out a response to the questions that were discussed during the meeting, and I presented for the year 2 and 3 a series of questions. So I open the floor for discussion.
Sorry, where are we starting?
I just opened the floor for discussion to talk about the document that I sent Friday with the series of questions for years 2 and 3.
So at our last meeting, we had discussed building more of a framework that aligned to like next step actions. And BJ, I responded to you. I want to say it was Friday. I could be off a day because the questions kind of threw me off. I felt like we were going to try to provide clarity around each of the items, and the questions felt like it was more ambiguous to me. So I had responded to you with my just a quick mock-up of just using arrows to delineate between the divided areas. Sorry, I'll be right back. For anyone who joined late, I had mentioned that I'm wrangling children solo this evening. So I'm a veritable ping pong ball.
You're a brave man, Nick.
I noticed your mouth moved, but we heard nothing. So
Yeah. If you see the veins start to bulge in my neck, you know things aren't going well. I didn't quite time dinner right.
They're expecting you to watch them.
That's right. That's right.
Time to order pizza, Nick.
So that's the thing. I thought I had timed dinner right, and I was earlier than I anticipated, which never happens to me. So they've already eaten.
Already popping off for the pizza.
Cake maybe then?
Right, yeah. Whatever you guys want, just sit down.
Yes.
So in any case, I didn't know where everyone else felt about the questions. And if we want, again, I'm not opposed to having the questions in there, but it felt like a departure from the original conversation we had last week. That's the only point I was trying to make before I ran away.
Okay. Well, a couple of comments that I have. When I looked at the numbering, it's all off. 2 is a 1 and 1 is a 2. So that'll have to be corrected. What I did was answer the questions that have to do with two approaches. One is our thinking and how we engage with people. And that's why we have the definition of why, how, and what as it applies to an organization. The questions look at the issues that we're dealing with, and rather than go into deep exposure around what the change is that I'm recommending, I'd rather ask the questions. In other words, in the first questions under why, we're looking at what are the core values which control your behavior. How do those values fit into the organization where you are giving your experience and conversation? And what is the philosophy and the mission for the organization? When you look at two, that's looking at how. And of course, each of these paragraphs, I started off about what's the role of responsibility when you're responsible for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in two, we're looking at what's the strategy that we want to put in place, not something I'm designing, but something the group is designing. And when you look at three, it's what the application is. It's still the same language. The application is how do you apply it? And so that's why I've gone into depth in order to do that. Now, to give any more than an explanation of that, it would be to reveal the exercises that I planned, and I prepared not to do that. There should be an education, an exercise, talking of the topic, and the group decides how we're going to proceed. Are there any comments?
Makes sense to me, BJ, because as the MC, for lack of a better phrase, I guess, or word, you wouldn't want to be shepherding the group into a particular direction and or bias them towards a particular outcome. So that makes sense to me.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that explanation, and thank you, BJ, can we provide maybe a short intro paragraph to each of the sections that helps clarify that? Because again, if somebody's looking at this who has no context, they're just going to see the three sections with a series of questions, and we should at least provide some written context.
Okay.
I think in my view, Nick, one paragraph should suffice right before the three subsections, the why, how, and the what. That the following questions should help in determining next steps in terms of what leaders should do to implement DE&I, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, whether it's one or per, I have no preference. Just again, something for clarification purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, our overall goal is to get all the boards and committees to kind of go through this exercise. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think that it might help also to be a little more clear about that, and just so the select board is not looking at these questions and saying, oh, is this just for us? Although it is, but in addition, we want the other boards to do it as well. Ideally, I'm not, and if I'm not speaking correctly, correct me, but I think what our general plan is to get some work done with each of the boards first and then kind of coordinate with the select board to, over the next couple of years. Is that right?
Yes.
So I think just maybe even a sentence or two sentences would suffice, just to say we want to do the work with each board and or committee first.
Engage with each board or committee
Yeah,
first.
something along those lines I think would be helpful.
Okay. That's fine. I was going to share with you that tomorrow, Nancy and I are meeting with the health board. and that's our first time. And so the 3-page that we provide is what's going to be given to them tomorrow evening at 7. We only have 15 minutes to speak, but at least they should meet Nancy and me and to know what direction we're going to take. We've already met with the planning board, as I mentioned to you in our last meeting. That was the 20th of October. And since then, Nick, you raised questions about the document that is the employee legal background that we provide for anybody that is looking at the DE&I work that we're doing. So you raised questions about that as well, Nick. The reason that you wanted to review the document before it went to the select board, and the background that I gave you was that when we held the planning board meeting on October 20th, that's when the leadership stood and said that she doesn't discriminate against anybody. And that was where she took off. We only had 50 minutes for the conversation. The people who serve on the board did not speak to her, address it. They just sat quiet the whole time she spoke before us. And so I think it's necessary to understand that this is a federal legislation that's been put in place. Now, some of the language does say that if you have 12 or more employees or 15 or more employees, then it should apply to you. However, I would also say the reason that we look at what's your philosophy and your core values, because that's based on who you are and how you treat yourself and other people. And that's what we're trying to encourage. It's not to discriminate against a person because of the color of their skin, which they inherited from people that brought them into this world. So we do want to look at the content of what we're doing, and you did raise the question about a paragraph. I looked at the last paragraph that I had with the document. That's where I said, as a faculty member who educates adults in the classroom, it's important that every person who participates in the equality and shares their thoughts and questions and engages in sorting out the direction and action they're going to take to solve an issue. My hunch is that a topic arises in comments, perhaps as a leader, I may ask questions and or move toward research and further discussion with classmates. So that may be the paragraph you're looking to introduce this at the beginning of those 3 paragraphs rather than at the tail end. That's just a thought. The other one, yes, I need to write a comment about participating with all the boards, so that they understand that that's the approach that we're going to take. The other note that I made to myself, and I haven't looked it up, but several of us got a letter in June or July about our appointment. Is there anything that we should put in this annual report, or should we just leave it out, Nick?
I don't think there's worth anything including in the report itself around that.
Say again, I didn't hear you at the beginning.
I'm not sure there's any
Value.
value. Thank you, Saeed, and including that.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure. Any other thoughts?
Just tracking back to what you were speaking to, the last paragraph on page 9 after the why, how, what. So my comment on that paragraph that begins with as a faculty member, my only comment there was around removing it or adjusting it, because again, this report is delivered by the entirety of this committee.
Yeah.
And so, just to, if there's anything that you want to say specifically about yourself that you feel would need to be included, I would just suggest that we do it in the third person, but otherwise we can take it out. I don't know that
Apologies for interjecting, but right below that paragraph, Barbara or BJ did sign off as the chair. So unless I'm missing something, I don't think it's a big deal to include that in there.
Well, so this is the fourth quarterly report, which is being included in the entirety of it. So the report itself is coming from this committee, not from BJ herself.
Sure, but she is the chair, right? And she's signing off as the chair of the committee.
Yes.
Sure, but I don't think we've provided the select board any other document that was individually signed. It was always the lot of us. Again, I'm just
Okay.
offering suggestions. I'm one of 5 here. So
No, I know, and I'm just thinking if it makes any difference, that's all.
Well, I don't know what. Here's what I'm paying attention to. Tomorrow is the last day that this report needs to get finalized and sent to Lynn Mills so it can be published tomorrow for the holiday. When we come back, that's when the first board meeting is, which is the 28th. That's next Monday. So this is the day that we have to finalize. This is the day we have to finalize the document. Did I hear a dog bark? Okay. So is there something that you want me to put in writing from all of us, rather than saying this report is from all of us?
Is the point just you feel like that's kind of out of step with the tone of the rest of the report? Like it's kind of suddenly a switch in voice?
yeah, I mean we've delivered 2 other quarterly reports that were delivered by this committee, not by any one of us individually. That's all. I mean, you know, when we wrapped up the third quarterly report, we didn't sign it as one of us or as the chair specifically. So I'm just, again, this was just a thing that just caught my attention that just didn't align with everything else that we've delivered thus far.
If I change the word best to submitted by DEI Committee, is that what you want to have, Nick?
So I think I'm speaking for Nick here, so stop me if I say anything wrong here, Nick, but I believe that's part of the issue. So the other piece would be BJ, and I'm going to share my screen for a second. So let me know if you folks can see my screen.
Yes.
So it's this part here. As a faculty member who educates adults in a classroom, so now you're talking about yourself, right? So
Yes.
it is important that every person participates. So this is where Nick is kind of saying, you know, we are now going towards a single person instead of the committee. So you could potentially say something like the chair of the committee is a faculty member who educates adults, blah, blah, blah. It is important that every person participates in equity, shares his thought and questions, and as questions arise in the comments period, perhaps the leader, you are requested to move towards research and further discussion, etc. So something along those lines, right? So it's not about you, I guess, and it's more about, it becomes more in the third person and more about the committee.
Got it.
Yes, thank you, Saeed.
Sure.
If anybody has any further comments, let me know. This-
BJ, I just had one, and I might have mentioned to it it to you previously. Under each of the sections, the why, how, and what, I think the first question is the same, and I was asking, is it supposed to say as a leader, what is my role and responsibility for the not just applications for each section, since the last one says applications? Is it supposed to be creative ideas and then strategy?
Yep, got it.
That, I think that was one, and then the numbering, I think that sometimes happens when you're like moving things around.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, today I can tell you I'm exhausted. I will have new energy in the morning after I come from the gym. So I'll work on working out the details of this, and I'll share a copy with Nancy for her to read to see if I screwed up anything. And then hopefully we can get it off tomorrow morning. I'd like for, as I said, Lynn to have it so that it can be distributed before we go on a break. All right. Nick, did you want to talk about the employee legal rights?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we can talk about it as a committee. I mean, if you and Nancy wouldn't mind taking a minute and just telling the rest of us what you did and what the document's intent is, so that we're on the same page, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. You're open for comments.
I'll just start by saying that it basically is a overview, almost like a review document of all the different laws. And as BJ has mentioned a couple times already, it stemmed from our meeting with the planning board, where after all the discussions and realizing that and this is not an uncommon thing where people might think, oh, I'm not discriminating, or I'm welcoming everyone, that maybe we need to go back a step and look at it, or additionally incorporate looking at it from a legal standpoint. So that kind of, well, this is how you're supposed to treat people. So are we doing that? Versus talking about it in less concrete terms or less formal terms, because sometimes that is more nebulous, or people's interpretation of what they are and aren't doing is more subjective. So BJ decided to put this together and use it as another tool, basically. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. So this is more of like a reference document for.
Yes.
all-
So it's not specifically something to go be presented at, a committee or board meeting. It's more for like a workshop tool or one of these discussions that we've been trying to have with each of the boards. Just another thing to look at in addition to the program that BJ's already put together. So as everybody requested, we're just sharing it here so you can see what it is. And yeah, if there's any comments or questions or anything else, please let us know.
My only comment is that it seems very comprehensive, so thank you both for working on it. I think it's also very helpful to, as you said, make sure that we're starting on the same page and sharing a common understanding of the various laws that Burlington operates under. So thanks again.
Yeah, echoing Carl's sentiments, I appreciate how thorough it was. When we first talked about it, I just didn't know what it was. So whether or not we decide to vote on this tonight as a reference document that we provide to the towns for something that they can use moving forward is up to this committee. But I mean, because we haven't written it necessarily, right? It's an aggregation of all of the laws as they stand. I guess we'd want to just be saying, yeah, we support the creation and the further use of the document. But I mean, in short, thank you both for putting it together.
I am going to echo the same sentiments. This is a comprehensive document, which is really a very good reference point. My only concern here is that when folks see documents like this, they have, among various reactions, they typically have these two reactions or one of these two reactions. A, they get scared. B, they someone can potentially ask, has this document been vetted by a lawyer? And so I'm not saying we do this before we have town council review it before the meeting next Monday, but it would be in my view, a good idea to have this document be seen by somebody who has legal expertise in these different laws. I can tell you, as I was looking at the document, I have two sections I am doubtful on if they apply to local government, Sarbanes-Oxley being one of them. And then the other, the effective compliance and ethics program. And then there's one more. I saw another one. I'm sorry. And now it escapes me. I'm not 100% sure if these two apply to local government. Sorry if I'm giving you guys vertigo by scrolling so quickly. What happened? I lost the call?
No, you're here.
Interesting. I'm there, but I don't see you guys anymore.
We see you.
I'm trying to get myself back here. Hold on a second. Yep, I can see myself now. All right. There was just too much silence, I guess. I was like, did I lose the call?
No, we're still here. We were waiting on you to speak.
You couldn't hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I have. I'm doubtful on these two, the effective compliance and ethics program. It applies to certain industries and certain corporations for sure. It applies to the federal government. I know I'm pretty sure it does. State government most likely, but I'm not sure if it applies to local government. And then Sarbanes-Oxley, the town may have volunteered or voluntarily decided to adhere to Sarbanes-Oxley. Sarbanes-Oxley is more geared towards, at least from my limited information, it's geared towards corporations of a certain size. So not all corporations have to comply with Sarbanes-Oxley.
Well, I will tell you that the reference I used, there are 4 books, and the document is straight from each of those books.
Mm-hmm.
If you would prefer to have an attorney who specializes in this kind of law, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I don't know of any attorney, and I don't know if the town would really want me to provide an attorney to review this document. In my humble view, the best thing would be for town council to review this document.
And is there an attorney that works for town council? Or is this just somebody else who,
No, I believe there is one.
okay,
Yeah, I think, anything that we want reviewed by town council, we just earmark it and let me know. And, after the 28th, we can ask them to review.
that would be fine. So we'll put it forward for the select board to look at it, and then based on their result, then we would have an attorney take a look at the content that's there to make sure that it's accurate. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
There is a piece of legislation that's being considered by Congress now. Nancy, do you remember what that is? Doesn't it have to do with, oh, I think it was last week they were talking about the same legislation we have here in Massachusetts, that you can marry someone who is the same sex that you are. And the other states are considering that. It's not a federal piece of legislation, but passed by states. So if that happens, the next time Congress meets and votes, then that may be another reason to have the attorney look at it to make sure that we accurately reflect that as well when it happens. Okay, next item on the agenda is to open the meeting. Please provide your name. And if you wish to speak, take no more than 2 to 3 minutes for your comments. Floor is open.
I see Lois Smith has her hand up.
Yes, Lois Smith Martin from Precinct 7. I'm a town meeting member. I want to thank you first for all of you doing this very important work. I really feel it's important in the town. I heard, and I may be wrong on this, that the committee is in jeopardy of being stopped. It's ended its year and that it may not be picked up again. Is that true?
So if I can jump in. So the committee was designed as a 1-year ad hoc committee. So its last meeting will be on November 30th of this year, at which point the select board will reevaluate, look at the final reports and decide how to move forward.
And are they being receptive to continuing with the committee?
I mean, so far I haven't heard any large no's from the members. So I would assume so. I'm going to encourage it as the chair of the select board for sure.
Okay. And another question I had was the director of the Diversity and Equity Inclusion I guess it's not a committee, but of the town, has left. Are they looking to replace that position?
I can speak to that one a little bit. So Mr. Porch, he was the director of DEI for the school district. And he did move on to another job at the end of September. And the school district's plan, as it stands, is to advertise the job, I think in January, concurrent with the search for an assistant superintendent. And they are also looking to hire not a director position, but someone to help facilitate programming at the high school in the interim. And they are in conversations about that as well.
Okay, I guess I don't understand. Are they going to, they're looking for a director or they're not looking for a director?
They are, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. They are going to post the permanent job soon, and they are in talks with someone on an interim basis because that permanent position, I don't think would start until the springtime or possibly July 1st.
Okay, all right, okay. They probably wouldn't find somebody right away either.
It is a tough time to hire,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay, all right. That's all I had. I just wanted to thank you all for all that you're doing. I think it's important in the town, and I hope it continues. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lois Smith Martin. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Say your name. Your comments are 2 to 3 minutes. There are no comments. The next DEI meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 30th of November at 6. And that's 2 days after we meet with the select board on Monday.
Is everybody able to make the 28th?
Yay, yes.
Okay. So because we're going to have quorum, we should post that we're going to be meeting that day, technically.
Yes. So I will send that to Lynn in the morning.
The report to
Yes,
Lynn and then the dates to Kirsten at the meeting's email.
yes, I will do that. But my aim is to get those 3 documents done in the morning before noon when I have to go for a walk.
Just a heads up, I'll probably be online on Monday. I may not be able to join in person.
That's fine. You'll be present. Any other comments? Approval to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Carl?
I vote aye.
Second. All those in favor, please say your name and your vote.
Carl votes yes.
Nancy, yes.
Sayed, yes.
Nick, yes.
DJ Addison Reed, yes. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your holiday.
You
You as
too.
well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.